Welcome to the June 1st City Council meeting. I am Jim Nash. I'm the City Council President, and I will be presiding this evening. I want to let everyone know that this meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. I now call the City Council to order. Laura, please take the roll.
Sure. Councilor Elkins.
Present.
Councilor Foster.
Here.
Councilor Gore.
Here.
Councilor Jarrett.
Here.
Councilor Labarge.
Here.
Councilor Maori.
Here.
Councilor Moulton.
Here.
Councilor Nash.
Here.
And Councilor Perry.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Now that we are convened, we first need to announce a public hearing and then we can take public comment. All right, the public hearing announcement. Announcement of a public hearing on 22.081 National Grid pole petition for one jointly owned pole on Clark Street. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. on National Grid's petition to install one jointly owned pole on Clark Street. Instructions for accessing the hearing may be found on the June 16th. Stop. I'm getting lots of calls about the convention. And on the June 16th, 22nd June 16th, 2022 City Council agenda to be posted on northamptonma.gov no later than 48 hours prior to the meeting. The City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon about that poll. Okay, now that we are convened, we will take public comment. If you wish to make a public comment, please use the raised hand feature. The raised hand feature is in the bottom menu bar under reactions. If you are calling by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you are having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to Councilor Foster. To ensure equal access, and because of the open meeting law, technical problems such as not being able to raise your hand are the only thing that the chat function is used for, and the chat function will only be available during public comment. We cannot accept comment over chat. Private chat or chat only visible on Zoom during a public meeting is antithetical to an open public process, in violation of the council rules for public participation, and violates the spirit and potentially the law of open meeting law. If you wish to submit a written comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. I will unmute each raised hand in the order raised to make a comment. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to 2 minutes. You are in no way obligated to use the full 2 minutes, but if you do, after 2 minutes, I will ask you to please finish your sentence. Tonight, we will also be using our timer, which will appear in the Zoom screen. According to the council rules, we do not respond during public comment, as it is your time to speak. So while your comment should be directed to us, you will understand when we do not respond. Our rules state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. Also, according to open meeting law, if someone is disrupting a meeting, they may be removed. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor, and all comments are to be directed to the council. This meeting can also be watched on Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube and other platforms. Okay, is there anybody here who would like to speak for public comment? I'm looking for raised hands. I am seeing no raised hand. Okay. Since it is the budget tonight, we'll give it a full, well, all right. It appears that nobody is here to speak for public comment. And I'm going to look at where we are on the agenda. Okay, we're going to move on from public comment. We're now up to announcements from councilors and the mayor. I don't think the mayor's here yet. Councilors, are there any announcements? Councilor Jarrett.
Thank you, Councilor Nash. I wanted to remind folks that the Florence Summer Concert Series is happening. It's Thursdays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. starting next Thursday, June 9th, and it runs through September 1st, and it's at the Florence Civic Center, which is right next to the Lilly Library. So there's a great lineup of bands that will be playing, and you can enjoy it outdoors. If it's rainy, then it's held across the street at the VFW. Thanks.
Wow, that sounds great. Any other announcements? Well, I want to announce that I'm wearing a tie where it's my tradition on the night that we vote on the budget. I wear a tie. And also, you'll notice that it has these little orange dots in it. And that's a reminder that tomorrow is Gun Violence Awareness Day, and people are encouraged to wear orange. And if you have an orange shirt or this nice orange tie, you show your support for gun violence awareness. So, any other announcements? Okay. Let's see. So, the mayor's not here yet. Let me see. I did get it. Do I have a text from her?
Just
All
to
right.
say that she was still at the Smith Folk graduation, but would be on her way soon.
Yeah. So, we can move on to the consent agenda. And if she has announcements, I'm sure, I'm willing to accommodate her. Consent agenda. We have the May 5th, 2022 minutes. We have approval of annual business licenses. We have item C, which is 22.108, in order to surplus and transfer property located at 196 Cook Avenue for affordable housing, parking, and conservation. We have item D, 22.109, in order to acquire property located off Coles Meadow Road to add to the Broadbrook Fitzgerald Lake Greenway. We have item E, 22.118, an order authorizing acquisition of drainage easement on Sherman Avenue. We have item F, 22.119, in order to accept D.A. Sullivan $10,000 gift for a public art project for the Thorns Marketplace mural. We have item G, 22.128, appointments to various committees for referral to city services. These folks, we have Carmen Juno for reappointment to the Housing Partnership. We have Aaron Buzivis for Parks and Recreation, and we have David Whitehall for the Planning Board. That is items on the consent agenda. Are there any requests for removals? Seeing no requests for removals, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right. Stan lit up, so I'm going to say he made the motion.
A second.
Oh, okay, and we'll go with Counselor Elkins as the second. It's kind of like Hollywood Squares. And there's no discussion on the consent agenda. Laura, take the roll call, please.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes. Okay. The consent agenda has passed unanimously. We are now on to financial orders in first reading. We have item 22.122, in order to accept grant and appropriate $63,115 of free cash to extend the city's fiber optic network. Let's see. Whereas the city is planning to extend the existing fiber optic municipal area network to include two critical infrastructure sites, the water treatment plant and the Glendale Road telecommunications tower. And whereas the fiber optic network, FMAN, is the F-man, that doesn't sound right. The fiber optic network is crucial for the city's business continuity plan, cybersecurity monitoring, prevention, and response strategies. And whereas the inclusion of these two critical infrastructures will enhance the existing connectivity and benefit the potential development of the municipal broadband network, and whereas the city's IT infrastructure relies on the existing dual hub redundant fiber optic ring topology for connectivity, performance, and disaster recovery. And whereas the total cost of the project is estimated at $313,115, and whereas the city applied for and was awarded as a community compact grant in the amount of $250,000, and whereas the city must provide $63,115, the balance after the grant award to fund the project. The City Council hereby accepts the community compact grant in the amount of $25,000 for the purposes outlined in the grant, and appropriates the amount of $63,115 from the FY 2022 General Fund Undesignated Fund Balance free cash to fully fund the project to extend the city's fiber optic municipal area network. Okay, that was a lot of big words for me. Charlene, are you here to speak to this, or?
I can.
Okay, great.
Or I can a little bit. I really don't know much beyond what I wrote there.
Okay.
But I know that Director Pagan said that while this isn't directly related to broadband, it will be useful if we do it. And I see that Chief of Staff has actually put his video on, so he might be able to say more. But as the order calls for, this $63,114 is the city's portion for the total project, and the city did apply for it and received a $250,000 grant. And maybe Chief of Staff Wolf has something else to add.
I mean, I think you're right. Most of it's right there. I mean, but there is a fiber loop that connects all of our city critical infrastructure, and there were a couple holes in that chain, basically, and this links them back up. Particularly getting to two sort of far-flung resources, the radio tower out on Glendale Road and the water treatment plant. And this allows those resources to be accessed with high connectivity and speed by the folks who need to access them. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, finishes this loop and does set a good groundwork for the municipal broadband system if we elect to go in that direction. So you can only apply for a couple community compact things a year. And this one was prioritized among 2 options to go for because we felt it was so important. The mayor thought it was so important to finish up this fiber optic loop.
Thank you. Counselor Jarrett, and then Counselor Maori, and then Counselor Labarge.
All right. Chief of Staff Wolf, do you have any update for us on how the municipal area network is going, how that project? I know I think we were expecting to have the results of the market feasibility study much sooner. Has that been delayed?
It's very soon. I think, in fact, we have seen a draft. So I think Director Pagan, when he returns, I think this will follow in short order the next steps on this. I mean, I think Charlene, in our last meeting, I think we are on the precipice of saying more.
Yes, I would say in the next 2 months. I know in July there will be more coming out.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Maori is next.
Yeah, I was just curious, Chief of Staff Wolf, it's very long. We'll have to think about.
You guys can just call me Alan. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. Cos Wolf.
The cause.
Anyway, yeah, the cause.
That I would object to the cause.
I'll think of one, and when I think of a nickname, it will stick. It'll stick like gum on your shoe. So my question was, do you think this upgrade, I'm just curious, will it positively impact, I don't know, other municipal functions or residential? Does it have by doing this one thing obviously for the water treatment plant and for Glendale Road, but does it kind of have an overall positive impact? You mentioned, of course, kind of starting the gentle paving of the way for any fiber optic improvement, but I was just curious.
Well, I note that DPW Director Lascalia is here. I can only imagine a better and more reliable connection to both of those resources, particularly the water treatment plant, will improve service and function for the kinds of things. I mean, I personally don't know exactly what kinds of things have to happen across the internets, but it's going to be a better and more secure connection to do anything and everything that we do. And I know that there is a lot of remote capability in both of those things.
Okay, thank you, Lefty.
Counselor Labarge, you're up.
Yeah, it's okay because Counselor Jarrett asked the question that I was about the visibility study. So I heard somewhat about maybe within a couple of weeks or a month or so. So thank you on that. Also, too, I feel that this is something to me of being very important, especially getting the grant at 250,000. And we're looking at putting in 63,115, which I think is a good movement in the right direction, because so many people have been saying they want changes and so forth like that. And also on Glendale Road with the telecommunications tower, I think that's the right place for that to go. And also the water treatment plant. I'd like to hear a little bit more, Alan, from Donna Lascalia on that, because I think I heard you say something about the servicing for the water treatment plant. And I think she probably would know quite a bit about that.
Well, this just links them via high-speed fiber to the rest of our city's network. I don't think the fiber in itself operates the water plant, but it just gives her a more reliable connection to do that from places other than at the water plant itself.
Okay.
Donna, are you around, or In any case, I mean, I just
No,
know
that's
that to be
okay.
true. I know that there is some ability to manipulate things in that plant remotely. And so this will be a more reliable connection.
Sounds like a plan. Hopefully.
Anyone else want to speak to this order? All right, per our new rules, this is a financial order on first reading. It can go either to Finance Committee, or it can go to the consent agenda for our next meeting. And I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to move to the consent agenda.
I second it.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Labarge to move this item to the consent agenda. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Oh, yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yep.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, that item will be on our consent agenda at our next meeting. Next up is item 22.123. In order to appropriate $8,966 of free cash to add form-based code to the city code book. This is in first reading. This is pretty much what I just read. And that Director Nardi, do you want to speak to this?
I'm here
Yeah, well, you know, you're dressed for a graduation with a flower and everything, so.
if graduation.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor, yes, please.
Thanks, Charlene and Alan, for pinch hitting. I never would have anticipated you would be at financial orders right now. So sorry for being late, but I was just at a very beautiful ceremony for Smith Folk Agricultural High School, and I got to fist bump every graduate, which was pretty amazing. So yes, so as you know, you all just recently passed the form-based code zoning changes, and it's a hefty amount of information. And one of the reasons that we wanted to do that was to make that code more transparent and visible for anyone who might want to do development. So we need to add it to eCode 360, which is the program where you can access our code online. So to add that sort of module for form-based code has a cost, and that is what this cost is.
Okay. Counselors, any questions? All right.
I'd like to make a motion to place this on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Moulton to put this item on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, that item 22.123 will be on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Next up is item 22.124. In order to transfer $150,000 from DPW Personnel Services to OM. On the order here, we are taking $75,000 from Highway, from PS, and another $75,000 from DPW Forestry Parks, also PS, and we are putting it in the Highway Division, OM, and this is to cover the cost of gasoline and diesel. And I'm assuming this has to do with the increased costs that are going on around those particular items right now. Mayor, would you like to speak to this?
It looks like Director Lascalia is here.
Oh.
To it.
Okay. Hi, sorry, I'm jumping in late here. I apologize for
No worries.
missing the conversation a couple minutes ago. But yeah, so the cost of our gas and diesel has actually close to doubled since this time last year, as I mentioned in my budget presentation a couple of days ago. So what we're doing is we're taking some excess salary that we have left over from vacant positions. And so this is actually good because we're just sort of keeping it within the DPW and not actually having to look in the larger general fund for money. But this will actually allow us to fulfill our obligation for our fuel contract. DPW actually houses the citywide fuel depot. I think I showed the council when you folks came through for a tour. So that's where all city vehicles fuel. So this allows us to buy fuel for the entire city. So thanks.
Councillor Labarge.
Yeah, so Dana, what I'm seeing here, this order, which I understand what you're talking about, is being transferred the 150,000 from the DPW personnel to ordinary maintenance, correct?
Yeah, it's just excess money that would have been used for salaries, but we have vacancies. So we're just transferring it into OM to allow us to purchase fuel.
Okay.
Councillor Foster.
Just a quick, to make sure I heard you right, is that $150,000, is that just DPW fuel or citywide fuel?
So this is actually for the DPW's fuel. So this would be for the streets division.
Councillor Jerry.
I noticed in next year's budget, 147,250 is being requested for the whole year. Is this 150 going to supplement that, or are we filling up the tank? Or I'm just curious about those amounts, because if we're, or are you going to maybe come back next year with more if the prices are still high?
Yeah, so what the strategy here is that this transfer tonight will supplement what I asked for next year in the event that prices remain high.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be added to that amount that we requested for next year. We have outstanding contracts right now, that we're buying fuel off of. So if the prices go down, we won't use the money. It'll be turned back to the general fund at the end of next year. If the price stays where it is, we will need that money in order to cover our obligations.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to send it to the consent agenda.
Second it.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Moulton and seconded by Councillor Labarge to have this item on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
and Councillor Gore.
Okay, item 22.124 has been sent to the consent agenda at our next meeting. We're up to item D, 22.125, in order to appropriate $7,872.99 from state earmark for community care department vehicle. This is pretty much what I just read. Mayor.
Yes.
You'd like to speak to this?
Sure. So you'll remember when we did the capital improvement plan, there was a vehicle in there for the Department of Community Care. And I said at that time that it was sort of TBD, but I wanted to make sure that we held something in the SIP for community care for a vehicle. We had based it at that moment on one of the Leafs that we often buy. But, you know, I said we needed to kind of figure out what was really needed. And Commissioner O'Leary and Director Donovan have been working on that and have determined that what they feel they need a vehicle that can go, it's all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. So they've decided that what a RAV4 also have a little more space would work better for their purposes. So this is just to get us to that additional amount to buy a RAV4 instead of the Leaf. This is a hybrid RAV4.
Oh, good.
Okay. Councillor Labarge.
I'm very glad, Mayor, to hear from you saying that it's hybrid.
That was my commitment, to only buy hybrid or electric, and if not available, then hybrid, if at all possible.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we move this to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Labarge, seconded by Councillor Jarrett to put this item on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Gore.
Yes.
And Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, that item will be on the consent agenda at our next meeting. We are now up to financial orders on second reading. However, before we do that, the mayor was a late arrival. And Mayor, did you have any announcements that you wanted to share?
Thank you for asking. No, I do not.
You want to give us an update on the Smith Folk graduation real quick?
It was absolutely lovely. The rain held off, and I got to give some brief remarks and welcome everyone. And then I got to, you know, congratulate every single graduate. So thank you for allowing me to be a little bit late. That was a real, it was a real thrill. So it was a very lovely, lovely ceremony. They, as you know, this has been, I mean, the graduates today, right, have had a very unusual high school experience. They only had one year that didn't have any disruption from the pandemic. And they've had a very eventful end of their senior year with everything that's happened over at Smith Folk. So it was very celebratory and lovely. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being there and representing us so well. Okay.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question on that?
All right, go right ahead.
Mayor, I saw that Smith Folk is requesting donations to help replace some the items that were lost in the recent fire. Do you just have an update on how that's going or how they're doing or where they're at?
In terms of donations?
Yeah. Yeah, I know they have their list.
I know there's been a lot of interest and I've heard from Superintendent Lincoln Hooker that there's sort of been an outpouring of support and people volunteering services or to you know, provide them or with what they've lost. But I don't have any kind of more specific details than that.
Okay. All right, so next up, we are up to financial orders in first reading. And we all know what this is about, but we do have some things we need to do to allow our colleague, Councillor Jarrett, to participate and in a fashion that fits his sense of you know, how to do things, and we want to support him in doing that. So I'm going to go to the little script here. Where did it go? All right, here we.
Counselor Jarrett has his hand raised.
Yes, Counselor Jarrett.
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating me. I just wanted to give an explanation before I recuse myself for this portion. So the Pedal People Cooperative, of which I am a member, has a pre-existing contract, a contract that came into place before I was in office, and there's various exemptions that allow that to continue as well, to be renewed if it's not any substantial change. So that is a portion of the budget that I may not participate in, but I can participate in the rest of it if you divide the question. So thank you for doing that, and I will see you on the other side.
Okay. Okay. So, step one, we need a motion to put adoption of the FY 2023 general fund budget on the floor for discussion. Could I get a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Perry to put the general fund budget on the floor for discussion. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Okay, I think that we don't actually bring it to a vote until after we've removed the $45,000 line item, and then we come back. Then the motion remaining is the approval with that missing line item.
So we have a motion and then a motion?
Yeah, now we divide the question to remove the $45,000 line item, and then we go back to the remaining items.
Okay, all right. So next we need a motion to divide the question to separately consider the $45,000 line item in the Central Services Parking Maintenance Budget for Pedal People contract. Could I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second it.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Moulton, seconded by Counselor Gore to divide the question for the Pedal People contract. Okay, now, do we vote now?
So with that item removed, what is now on the floor is the general fund budget minus that
Okay.
that line item. So you can now.
So Alex can come
Or
back.
actually, I'm sorry. You do need to call to a vote the dividing of the question to make sure everyone wants to do that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to divide the question to take out the $45,000 for the Pedal People contract. Laura, roll call, please.
Okay, Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
and Counselor Jarrett is recused. Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay. So now the question is divided.
Okay, so now, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. All right, so now we can discuss the general fund budget less the $45,000, and Counselor Jarrett can join us for that discussion. Yay.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay, so the general fund budget is now on the floor for discussion. And Mayor, do you want to say anything to frame things here, or just let counselors dive in?
Yeah, I think counselors should feel free to dive in. I mean, I feel like I want to thank the council. I really appreciated all of the really insightful, excellent questions during the budget hearings. So thank you all for that. I think we've had a really, good discussion around it, and have hit a lot of the main points that I wanted to talk about. So I appreciate all of your sort of careful reading and how much you've thought about this and what you brought to budget hearings. So I thank you for that, and I'm happy to have any further discussion that you'd like to have.
Councillor Jarrett.
Thank you. I'm happy to start it off. Thanks again for accommodating my conflict of interest. First, I just want to thank Mayor Shara for this budget, which I believe achieves a balance between important needs. I very much appreciate the strong support for the schools, and even the extending of ourselves a little bit further than is comfortable as we recover from the worst of the pandemic. And I am very concerned about the fiscal cliffs ahead, particularly if the state budget continues to level fund or even decrease our school appropriation. I would also like a more equitable pay system for all school employees, and one that doesn't just reflect what the market will pay, but recognizes the needs of every worker and the hard work that they've put in. I don't know how to achieve this, but I want to see it as a goal. I think that the new Department of Health and Human Services, with its expanded focus, shows really strong forward thinking about public safety and health in a broader sense. I listened last night to Chief Casper's presentation and concerns, and I was reflecting on our decision of 2 years ago to reduce police funding. And I see it as an imperfect yet important decision, a decision that to change our priorities with the support of the public in the wake of police murders. I call it imperfect because it did have negative financial and morale consequences. However, I didn't see any other way to push against the interests of the status quo, and the money that from that cut is still with us, and it does make it easier for us to fund the new community care department and DHHS and our schools, and just having served on the Northampton Policing Review Commission, I don't see reform or major change coming from the police. We had conversations during the commission around, for example, officers patrolling unarmed, with lethal weapons available in their vehicle if the situation warrants. And I think, this department nor most any other in this country would be comfortable with that, is what I took away from those conversations. So it's important that we build an alternative response and expand that response as we are ready. And I think this will likely take more resources, and it will be a while before any reduction in policing would be evident, since the police are currently the ones that are ready to respond throughout the city to a crash or other public safety event. And most of those events, an armed response is not generally needed, but they're the ones that are available. And so with the community care department and DHHS, it's a major undertaking. I always wanted to move faster, but I understand that it must be built right. And I know that Director Donovan and the health commissioners are taking that very seriously, as well as the mayor in guiding and planning, shepherding all of this through. So then with the rest of what we see in the budget, we're seeing general level funding, which I believe, can't last given the effects of the inflation rates we've been seeing. And so I'm not sure what this will mean in the coming years, but without increased state support or a more progressive taxation system, we will continue to see some of us overly burdened, while others who could pay more without struggle are not required to do so. So with all that said, I am supporting this budget, and I want to just thank the mayor and the department heads and all of the city staff for dedicating your work life to this city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jarrett.
Councilor Labarge.
Thank you. I'm going to support the budget 100%. I want to thank every one of the department heads that we brought in. And also to the mayor. I think the mayor did an excellent job on her presentations with the department heads and with the city councilors. And I knew she would because I've worked with her for so long that she's very good about that. And I'm very pleased about the budget. The only thing that I'm very concerned about is the school department. And especially our teachers. I still feel even what they got now, that extra 250 was something to me in my heart was well worth that. Even with the mayor giving 109,000. But I have to agree with Councilor Jarrett that we need money. And we need money for our schools and our teachers and the staff in the school department. How we're going to get it, I don't know. Maybe by taxing the rich at that percentage that they want to do. That should go for education here for our schools. And I'm hoping that's going to happen. And I am just to the point about our schools that I worry about it every year of the pink slips, like we heard from one of our counselors the other day. And I don't want to see that because I don't think it's necessary to have to do that. And I do know some of the teachers that were excellent teachers here in the city. And they left and they got more money going to another city. So I think we're all going to have to put our thinking caps on. And I think we're going to have to become very vocal as counselors to support our mayor and talk and do what we have to do at the State House to let them understand we need to be funded for our educational purposes here in the city of Northampton. So anyways, I want to thank all the counselors also for the 2 nights that we have spent with interviewing and hearing the process from the department heads. I think at a critical time now, which we still are, and I still believe that, and you hear it all the time about inflation, and things are not nice out there. The cost of food, I worry about the needy all the time, just looking at that cost of food. And also people going to work out of town and the price of what it's costing for gas, what it's costing for us ourselves with our families, just for surviving. So we have a lot to do as counselors. And I know if we follow the path with our mayor, that I think our city will become eventually very, very vibrant. Thank you. And I am supporting this budget.
Thank you. Can I just respond to
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Barge. Thank you for your faith and belief and your support. And I'll just say that I will load as many of you will fit in my minivan and we will go to the State House. I will stand on every corner with you with signs and we will do everything we can to change the formulas. But, you know, first order of business is to get the Fair Share Amendment passed. And I will stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you and work as hard as I absolutely can.
Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
I'll offer up my minivan too. We'll caravan in the minivans. But absolutely, I said it last night that you know, I wanted to talk more about it. I didn't grow up in Massachusetts. I moved here actually for a teaching job. I taught in another community. And my introduction really to sort of the tax system of Massachusetts was when I received a pink slip. And I didn't know it was coming. I was like 22, right? You don't think about these things. I hadn't really expected it. And I just got this notice in my teacher mailbox one day, at the end of the day, that I was laid off for the next year. And that is not a way that we keep teacher morale and that we keep, strong employees in our schools as well as throughout the city. So I just want to, I'll start with my frustration. with Proposition 2.5 and with the tax system we have and the unfair burden for local funding coming from property taxes, we know it's regressive, we know it's unfair. And as I watch, income inequality grow, think about, we have people camping, living in congregate shelters. The city has done a tremendous amount to support people. We can do more. And at the same time, we have this income inequality just growing and growing. And so, I think first order of business is we need to get the word out and educate about the Fair Share Amendment and just the incredible importance of that. We've watched our schools and our infrastructure, local cities and towns be chronically underfunded for decades. And it's a bill we have to pay one of these days. And so, if the governor is going to tout a state surplus, that's not really fair because it's putting the burden on local cities and towns. And yet at the same time, we're so limited in ways that we can raise revenue. We don't have an option on the local level to consider, graduated property taxes or, different ways of raising that revenue. So it is, I said it last night, it's unconscionable. And it's something that, I think we all need to work on. I do want to thank you, Mayor, for the budget and for all of the hard work from all of the department's heads that has gone into it. I'm really excited about the movement toward the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Community Care, to see action being taken there, and it's coming. It's good to see, and I'll echo Councilor Jarrett. I wish it were quicker, but I actually appreciate that it's coming and that it's coming in the way that it is, and that's folded into our municipal structure. And you don't build great work on a dime. That takes time and planning and buy-in and outreach and resources. And we're going through the process, and I'm really gratified that we're there. As we were going through, as the school committee was making its recommendations and looking at requesting an additional appropriation for raise for ESPs and looking at teacher retention, one thing that I worked by was hearing people who've worked in our community for a long time say that they didn't necessarily feel valued. And I think I just want to broaden that because I think that can often be a drawback of working in public service. As people who work in public service, you kind of get used to your job and your salary often being in the public realm, and it's up for discussion, and budgets need to be balanced. And given that cities and schools and departments are run by people, yes, we're balancing budgets for gas and diesel, but for the most part, we're balancing budgets for people. And with inflation through the roof in the way that it is, the way that the budget's being balanced is the people, and it's really difficult. And I was just struck by that. I'm glad to see the extra appropriation in the budget this year, knowing just across the spectrum, schools nationwide, how difficult it has been for teachers and paraeducators and school staff and what they've been asked to do over the last couple of years. It's really just an enormous task. And I wanted to take a minute because one of the things that really struck me the first year we went through this process in looking at the budget book, and as we talk about how the budget is the people, seeing the names of our city employees under under each department and through the budget, and it just humanizes, I think, so much some of the decisions that we're making. And really, the longer I've served on council and the more interaction I have with city staff in general, the more impressed and grateful I come away for a city that is working so hard on behalf of its residents. And it's not perfect. I know it's not. Any city structure, it was set up to support patriarchy and ableism and white supremacy and all of those things. And yet we're working on it and getting better. And our city staff are incredibly dedicated. And so I just wanted to mention, when I think about low morale, and I wish I had gathered a lot more, I could keep us here till midnight, but I wanted to give a few name recognitions that some constituents shared with me to think about, particularly in the schools. And I'll start with my own recognition with Peggy Paul, who's an ESP at Bridge Street Elementary School. I have a child who we used to have tearful drop-offs on the playground every day. And Peggy Paul would come and grab his hand and say, "Let's ditch mom." And he would look back and smile and hold her hand and walk into the school building every day. And usually I was leaving in tears after that. He didn't see it, but she made morning drop-off possible every day. And in the high school, somebody wanted me to know that Jane Reeves is truly the heart of the NHS community. Whether you need an answer to a question, someone to help out, or a reassuring word, Jane is the person. Rochelle Garfinkel works tirelessly to help the NHS library serve all students, and her energy, ideas, and commitment are incredible, and the library is moving into the future under her guidance. In her work with Best Buddies, Lou Roy makes sure all students have access to great opportunities and fun activities, from attending the Nutcracker at the Academy of Music to Best Buddies prom to picnics and sports. Lou makes it happen. Jeremy Whalen is a superstar for our students, from the transcript to the yearbook to graduation, everything tech and media related in between. Andrea Sullivan helps students navigate complex scheduling and with understanding and grace. I'm going to move on to central services. She's moved on, but Kristen Fredette helped a constituent with a street light, and a constituent wrote back an email to say, "Quick as a wink, it was done. I can't believe it. Thank you." And then I just wanted to give a shout out to Pam Powers, who I once called in her office on a Saturday as she was preparing for an election. And she was there on a Saturday tracking down what went wrong on an absentee ballot for constituents and meet the postal deadline. And my constituents were able to vote in that upcoming election. And these are just the most minor, or just a handful of examples. I'm not gonna say they're minor, just a handful of examples. There's more throughout the city, and I do want our city staff to know that they're seen and appreciated and valued. And, I definitely support this budget and look forward to the hard community conversations and the work we're going to need to do to keep going in future years.
Thank you, Councillor Foster, for that. And I couldn't agree more. The people who work for the city of Northampton are remarkable, and it is the privilege of a lifetime to get to work with them. They are, so thank you for shouting out how hard they work and how special they are.
Councillor Gore. You have the floor.
I just want to echo what everybody else said. Thanks, Councillor Foster, for pointing out those names of the people in different departments, because it really, seeing the names really does humanize, all these numbers and things. And it's been a real learning process for me going through this budget for the first time. And hearing the budget hearings was really informative, especially hearing from Dr. Provost and hearing from the police department and the new DHHS. And I'm really excited to see what the Department of Community Care can do with the funding that the city has given them. And like, Councillor Jarrett said, I want it to happen fast, but everything takes time. And I applaud the mayor for the work that she's doing on that. And I'm going to support this budget. I think, it's, there are some, we do have to make up some shortfalls and some budgetary cliffs later in the future, but hopefully, like other people have said, we can get some more state funding, and hopefully, we can recover from this COVID, catastrophe that, touched all departments and all the people in our city. And so I think for this year, this budget is pretty solid. So, and I'm really glad that the schools got the extra funding. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Councillor Gore. Councillor Perry.
Yes, I just want to echo what everyone else said and thank the mayor. I thank Charlene Nardi for presenting this excellent budget. I'm as well going to support it. again, like Councilor Gore said, this is a learning curve for me. So I had a chance to really dive into seeing what it takes to run a municipal government. The thing that really stood out for me, however, was looking at what COVID did to our revenue sources, whether it's our parking revenue, hotel and meals tax. And for me, that really hit home. You know, I come from that world. And, you know, while we are trying to be optimistic, I know that we are very far from being done with COVID and the impacts that it has on our businesses. And so when I see the numbers for the meals tax and the hotels, I don't see numbers, I see businesses and I see people. And I am very heartened to know that outside of this budget, that the city is also putting in efforts to really try and address some of these situations that have affected our businesses here. So I just want to thank you, Mayor, for all the things that you're doing and the initiatives that you have up in the air, because it means a lot to the people who are helping to bring folks to the city and helping to run our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Councilor Perry. And thank you for all of the creativity and energy that you're bringing to programming downtown and making the summer really vibrant and special and just full of people and how we want Northampton to be. So thank you.
Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. Thanks first to Councilor Foster for her brilliant way of humanizing what we're really talking about tonight. And that's essentially the people who work for the city and who provide so many services in a very dedicated and professional and meaningful way. And we do appreciate you. Thanks to the mayor, thanks to the department heads who spent a couple of nights with us. It was very informative as we looked under the hood, and I came away feeling both hopeful and sobered because, as others have said, I think this is a responsible budget for this year, which I enthusiastically support, but we have much work ahead of us to really prevent catastrophe in the coming years. This is a year where a 5% increase for the school department is very, very justified. And I just want to take a minute to thank the mayor for her leadership on this. She was in I think the peculiar position of having voted against the additional money at the school committee level, and then once the school committee had approved that money, finding a way to include it in the budget. And I think she did it in a responsible way. I think we heard last night that there is a risk that we'll be paying perhaps a higher interest, slightly higher interest rates by delaying borrowing for a short period of time. The much greater risk in my mind would be not providing this money for additional for the raises for teachers and ESPs and school employees in general. I hope that this show's support helps to improve morale and keeps our very dedicated teaching and support staff in the Northampton schools. Also very hopeful is the Health and Human Services Department, including the Department of Community Care, which I think it will be a model that will be looked at nationally. And I really this is a very daunting assignment to take on the normal duties of public health, along with the opioid crisis, and now the alternative for public safety. A huge challenge, but I've been very heartened listening to Director O'Leary and Commissioner O'Leary and Deputy Director Farry and Director Donovan talk about how they've embraced this, and I think they will work together collaboratively with each other and with other city departments, and I think that this will provide some relief to the police department that we heard is also facing challenges both with morale and staffing. We heard that last night from Chief Casper. So that is hopeful, but we have, as I say, much work still ahead to face the coming fiscal challenges. But a budget that I think certainly we can all applaud for the fiscal year of 2023. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so very much, Councilor Moulton. I really appreciate those words.
Can we take a brief recess, Councilor Nash? Councilor Perry needs to step away for a minute.
Okay,
Or-
instead, and then Counselor, we will pick up with Counselor Elkins in 10 minutes. Sorry, thank you. You're more than welcome. Counselor Elkins.
Yes, and I even have my microphone on already. I will be brief for a couple of reasons, which I'll state briefly. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Mayor Shara, and to all department heads who have come and spent so much time, not just in the last 2 nights, but also in the tours that have been given and in their other presentations, the council meetings, for everything that they've done to educate us, especially us newbies, on everything that goes into running a city as amazing as this city. And this budget that we're voting on tonight, and the work that went into it, the thought and care and love for this city is it really, you can see it and in between the numbers and the columns and the charts and all of that you see the care and thought that has gone into it, and that I think is reflective of who we are collectively as a city. And I do want to say that the thing that I'm taken with, and also in reference to my comments last night, is that I really feel like as a city, when it's in our hands, that what we do collectively is almost invariably the right thing, that we put together what we need to do to be stable, to be to provide a good home, and so we take the hard votes like the override, and we do and I have no doubt how the fair share amendment vote is going to come out in this city, but if only we could have that apply to the whole Commonwealth and have it come back to us. My frustration last night, and what it was, and what I have to say, and what I see coming for us, is really a frustration about, to use your word, Councillor Foster, how unconscionable the position that cities like ours have been put in, and frustration that we can't take it in our own hands, to the extent that we can. It is doing what you said, Mayor Shara, of going and pounding down the sidewalks on Beacon Hill and appealing to our legislators and making it known what position we have been in. So we can do that, but it's not in our hands. We won't, it's not our vote. So I am incredibly frustrated by that, but it's a no-brainer that I would support this budget. It's not that what we have to do now in this moment to take care of ourselves, to take care of our employees, to take care of our kids. It's obvious that this is what we need to do now, and that we have to do what we can to make things fair from the top down. And so I'm committed to that. That's part of the reason why I'm proud to be here. A case in point that I just want to briefly comment on is that in terms of what we do when it's in our hands, the decision a couple of years ago, when before I was on the council, to cut the police budget in the face of the national outcry for police violence against residents, against the people they're supposed to be protecting. That was powerful, and a culmination of things that many of us who are working in the fields and living in the fields that deal with social services, and of course the lived experiences of so many people. And so not for a second do I think that the response, as Councilor Jarrett said, was in the moment what you could do, what was possible. And I applaud that decision. It would have been the wrong decision if the city had done then nothing. But of course, the Police Review Commission came together, did tremendous work, bringing lots of people together, hearing from lots of different people. And so, and now we're seeing those recommendations and those reforms put into place. So there's still lots of things to be done and lots of work. But I just want to comment on, I just have to say that lots of people came out across the country and had this outcry. Not every city did what we did, and took it to the next step and identified what we could do and took it upon ourselves collectively to do it. And so I'm really proud to be that. So the last thing I would just say is that this has been a tremendous learning experience for me. And so just like the Police Review Commission and the Department of Community Care and all the work that's gone into that, I'm in this position of learning so much and of watching and being a small part of carrying out the hard work of preceding administrations and preceding councils and other members of the community who worked on like the review commission and so many other, projects and ideas to push forward. And I'm incredibly proud to support this budget. Even, everything in life comes with compromises and trade-offs, and we all do what we have to do. But I can't say enough how pleased I am and how grateful I am for the work that went into this, and to see the work of our city employees and department chairs and the mayor and everything that went into it. So I'll be pleased to support the budget tonight.
Thank you so much, Councilor Elkins.
Okay. I think Councilor Maori is getting ready to say something.
My computer decided to start dying, so I had to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
My computer started.
Would you like the floor?
Oh, why? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just plug in. I think it's better with my headphones. Let me see. Yeah. No. I actually thank you very much for that support, Councilor Elkins, as someone who was at that time working in the field, but out there kind of watching what we were doing on council that spring. So I wanted to start by what we've all been doing, is thanking the mayor. I appreciate you being so flexible and willing to take the calculated risk of funding the school budget at the level the school committee felt was needed. Every year counts in this precious, relatively short educational lives of our children. And so I deeply appreciate that. Morale has been this running theme this budget season. A school committee member shared with me how amazing it felt to pass a school budget that, while maybe not ideal, felt more in line with what the school community really needs, and also more in line with their values. So I think that, that's the morale booster right there, just naming that and recognizing and valuing our school. So thank you for that. I thank our department heads for earnestly sharing with us the challenges each of their department, is facing. We heard the particular struggles of the police department is having with retention and morale. We are fortunate to have Chief Casper's leadership, and no doubt public safety here in Northampton, as well as across the nation, is facing a reckoning and is in crisis. This is how fundamental change starts, and it is no way easy or seamless. That is why I'm really glad for our new and expansive Health and Human Services Department and our Department of Community Care. This is the wave of the future. I don't believe the crisis in policing is going away, and so we have no choice but to pivot and do what we're doing. And so we are pivoting. The more that more services we take out that do not require an officer and a gun, and we take them out and put them with more appropriate services, the more we alleviate what sounds like a very burdened police department. And then we better match problems community members are having with the appropriate solutions. As counselors, we did our jobs 2 years ago with our modest budget reduction to the police department, along with other departments that year. It signaled our willingness to pivot, and there were no easy decisions, and departments routinely do not get their desired budgets. And I understand that the pandemic has not boosted anyone's morale, but without a doubt, we would be facing a bigger budget hole with our school budget and our Health and Human Services Department without that reduction. Mm-hmm. We do what leaders do. We make tough decisions, and as Councilor Jarrett said, often imperfect decisions, but ones that are best for our community. Because we know how a community shows up for its most vulnerable members and members who are in crisis, and in times of crisis, tells you all you need to know about the health and the values of that community. So I'm proud of us, and I'm proud of this budget, and I will support it.
Thank you, Councilor Mary.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance here? Okay. So I'd like to start by, thanking the mayor and Director Nardi, first of all, for, the way this budget season has come together. Here we are in a meeting on June 2nd. We have basically this meeting to discuss this important document that you've guided other items coming out of the mayor's office. They've been addressed in other ways, and that we've really got a clean plate here tonight to just take our time on this. I applaud this budget. It is very familiar. It is that it's picked up where Mayor Narkowitz and Director Wright have left off. It's very much seamless in terms of its professionalism, its transparency, and I also applaud the availability of department heads and the mayor's staff to answer any questions. And I also want to say that if I have a question tomorrow or a month from now, that the staff will be there to answer more questions, that this is not a one and done, that we're all working together to understand how the finances of our city work. And I really appreciate that. I want to take a brief overview. I just want to do a little history break. So Director Nardi provided me with some numbers for Northampton schools since 1999. And you can break them down into three different groups. So the first group runs from 1999 to 2003. And here's what the increases look like: 4.73%, 4%, 3.51%, 1.58%, 3.62%. Those are numbers that sound a lot like the numbers that we deal with today. Then then things started to change with the state funding for cities and towns, and very much impacted Northampton. From 2004 to 2013, here's what the numbers looked like: negative 0.88%, 0%, 0%, 2006. These are the numbers, the increases for the school budget. 2007, 11.19%. What do you do with that? I mean, you've had 3 years of no money, and then here's a pile of money, and then 2%, then 0.8%, then up to 3.48%, then in 2013, down to 0.51%.
Awful.
This is chaos.
It is.
And during those years, and Councilor Labarge will remember this, as well as Director Nardi, who served on school committee up in Williamsburg, that this was the times where people got their pink slips. And it wasn't just Northampton, it was cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth. But in particular, it was very hard for us because we would lose really good people. They'd go to other jobs. Then something happened in 2014. It's called the Fiscal Stability Plan, where one other thing I want to say about that period of time, along with the layoffs, there was extreme distrust of city finances. That there was always this feeling of like, where's the money? There must be more money. If we really, turn the screws on this, that somehow the money's going to show up. And that, so instability for the school department, layoffs, distrust of the city in general. What the Fiscal Stability Plan did was that it was saying to the voters of Northampton, you can trust us. We are going to take care of the money, and we're going to come up with a plan where we can support our city. But in particular, most at the centerpiece of that was our school system. Here are the numbers of the annual increases since 2014. 6.27%. This is for the school department. 3.36%, 2.96%, 3.1%, 3.04%, 3%, 4.51%, 3.6%, 4.04%, and then this year, 5%. This is all to say that the Fiscal Stability Fund has brought stability not just to the city, but it's also very much brought it to our school system. And that as we move forward, we really need to take care of making sure that the plan stays in place. And I want to emphasize how it's even holding us right now. You know, per the report from superintendent, that provost, that, you know, next year there's a fiscal cliff. There's a fiscal cliff. And we are sitting here going, oh, we're going to make a plan, that we're going to think, and we're going to advocate, and that we know there's a cliff, and we know we're going to need to work together. And that I just want to say that, you know, that tonight that you know, I am really committed to making sure that our stability plan maintains itself moving forward, so we can keep that trust with our community, and so that we can maintain, you know, the services that clearly have changed for our school system. In the past decade, we haven't been doing layoffs. You know, that teachers know when they're coming back. You know, that if instructional aides like our ESPs, as Dr. Provost was talking about last night, is they're hired for a need, and then the need is no longer there. They're not being laid off because we just don't have the money. So that anyway, I just wanted to say how that process is working, and how I'm completely around standing behind making sure that it's strong moving forward. Mm-hmm. I'm all about finding a way to support the fair share amendment, but I especially don't want to go back to those crazy days, because it doesn't help anyone. And if we break the fiscal stability plan, we can go back there. So the last thing I want to say is that, you know, there's been references to the vote back in 2022. I voted against defunding the police. It was the hardest vote I ever made, and I also think it was the right vote. It was, and it was the right vote because that to make a decision to city employees without a clear plan that comes off as punishing has an impact. And our police department is still feeling that today. Had we, on the table that night was also the resolution to move forward with the Policing Review Commission. And we decided to move forward with that as well. I think had we taken that approach, that that all of the recommendations that we're moving forward on now came out of that. I want to emphasize, I completely understand the position of folks on council now and in the past who voted to defund the police on that June night. I was ever so close myself, and that I don't think I've ever sat in the crucible more than those hours, those long hours. And I just want to close that during that time, our police department took quite a beating in terms of what its capabilities are and also in terms of its abilities to show its heart. I sit here in my dining room, where in 2019, a family member was on the floor right over here having a mental health crisis. And it was a member of the NPD who came in here and dealt with that crisis and got down on the floor with that family member and talked them through their crisis. That person is no longer with the department. We lost them with that decision, that their sense was that this was a department that wasn't going to support them, and that that individual was a female officer. It's all been very hard, and I'm not here to point fingers at anybody and say you made a wrong decision, right decision. We all made a very hard decision, and we're living with the impacts of it right now. And that I think that moving forward with the Department of Community Care as a human services worker, it's tremendously the right thing to do. And that, but I think that I don't think we fully understand the need for having officers out in our community who can step in at a moment's notice and provide services like that. And so, because they do that as well. And so anyway, that's my thoughts. And this is a great budget. This is a great council. This is good debate. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Councilor Nash, for all of those reflections.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to this? Where the heck are we? All right, we're considering the general fund budget with $45,000 taken out. And Laura, we're at a point where we could entertain a vote on this. Is that, do I go to my, let me look.
That's correct. There's a motion and a second on the floor to adopt the FY 2023 general fund budget.
Okay. Any more discussion?
That's minus the 45,000.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for, let's make Okay, hearing no discussion. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that was step 3. Yay. Yay is in order. Okay, now what we need to do is, Councilor Jarrett is going to step out and we are going to deliberate and vote on the $45,000 that we had separated out. So we can talk about it first. Anybody want to talk about it? Do we need a motion on this, or do we already have
a motion? Because we
Okay.
divided the question, but we don't have a motion to approve.
Okay.
Move that we approve.
Second.
Okay, so that motion was made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by
Maori.
Councilor Maori. Thank you. Okay, so this is a motion to approve the $45,000. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
And Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay. That has been the $45,000 for the Pedal People contract has been approved. So Laura, now we will entertain a motion to approve the entire order for 22.111 in order to approve the FY 2023 general fund budget. So I need a motion on that. I know this sounds like we're voting on the same thing over and over.
I know. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, so Counselor Labarge made the motion. Counselor Elkins seconded. Any discussion on 22.111? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Perry,
Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes, okay. So we can welcome Counselor Jarrett back now. Welcome. All right. So now we are on to item 22.1112 in order to approve the FY 2023 Sewer Enterprise Fund budget. I didn't read the other one, but we sure talked about it. So I'll read this one. The sum of $6,177,500, which is the full amount necessary for fiscal year 2023 Sewer Enterprise Fund budget, be appropriated for the purposes stated, and to meet said appropriation, $5,175,525 is to be raised from sewer receipts, and $1,001,975. Was somebody saying something? Oh, okay. $975 shall be allocated to indirect costs. So that's the order on the floor, and it's going to all of these different things. I will.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Jarrett, seconded by Counselor Moulton. Any discussion on the Sewer Enterprise Fund budget? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Sorry, I do
Oh,
want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just, this is sort of together with water because they both have the effect. I know water is the next item, but just the big question of Coca-Cola closing, of 1/3 of our water and sewer usage. And, I trust that we'll figure this out, but it's kind of a frightening prospect in terms of, if the idea would be to find and attract other users into that building. But if not, are we going to see a 1/3 increase in our rates next year? So that's kind of, the question that's on my mind as we're approving this. And are there longer term conversations we should be having around conservation or promoting alternative technologies like composting toilet systems, gray water recycling to reduce overall load on the system? Just putting it, I don't think now is the time to talk about all those things, but to put it out there that this is could be a very difficult event and in this area. So there's those remarks.
Counselor Jarrett, you're frozen and you're right. I think I've tried to be very direct and forthcoming about how serious that situation is. And I see the director of the Scalia is here, and she's also been talking regularly about sort of what planning we're trying to do. And, my office has recently met with Coca-Cola and tried to gauge what their plans are. Sorry, it's really loud outside. And have another meeting tomorrow, or trying to sort of understand that industry better so that we can do what we can from our side to find prospective buyers and kind of market it ourselves if possible. So we're really sort of aggressively trying to do what we can, knowing that it is a multinational corporation and we have limited power in the situation, but we are working very hard to exercise what power we have. Director LaScalia, do you have, and you can talk about the study that we're doing to help sort of inform the other part of your point, Councilor Jarrett.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to add that, when you think about how the budget is built, there's various components to the budget. There's PS, there's OM, there's OOM, there's the debt, there's the indirects, and then there's the capital. So, when we're putting together the budget, we have certain fixed expenses that are what they are. The size of the system and the infrastructure that we have that currently exists, like the plant and our pump stations and our miles of the collection system, irrespective of Coca-Cola or anybody else, that system is in place. And it's not like we can say, oh, well, we can, shut down this pump station, or we can, scale back the operation of our plant. Like what's there is there. But we have, when we build the budget, what we can look at is what level of debt service are we taking on. So since we're talking about sewer, if we're looking at losing, between 1.2 and 1.5 million dollars in revenue, what we have to look at in the budget is say, what does that 1.2 and 1.5 million dollar, 1.2 to 1.5 million dollars represent within the budget? And if that represents our capital expenditures, now we have to think about how we can backfill that. And we can backfill that, if that revenue goes away, we can backfill it with stabilization. We can backfill it with ARPA funds, potentially. And then we can have Ty and Bond, our engineering firm, take a look at that revenue shortfall and say, how can we make up that revenue shortfall? And we don't necessarily have to make it all up in 1 year. We can make it up over a period of years. So, and there's also different ways to structure debt within the enterprise as well. So, we do have some tools at our disposal to lessen the impact. And it's also unclear to us exactly when Coca-Cola will be exiting the city, whether this is going to be sort of a glide path or a, kind of in the moment event. We do think it's going to be sort of a gradual scale down of their operations just based on conversations with them. So those are just some comments on, some of the things that we can do to lessen the impact of this. But, ultimately our ability to invest in our infrastructure from a capital standpoint is going to suffer from this reduction in revenue unless we can come up with a way to make up that shortfall. So hopefully that's a helpful explanation.
Yes. Thank you both. That eases my mind a little, that it won't be just a sudden, immediate issue, that we have reserves and there's active work.
Okay. We have a motion on this on the floor.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Laura, roll call on the order for the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
and Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Okay. So that passes. Now we are on to 22.113, in order to approve FY 2023 Water Enterprise Fund Budget. Let's see. Ordered that the sum of $6,945,000, which is the full amount necessary for the fiscal year 2023 Water Enterprise Fund budget, be appropriated for the purposes stated, and to meet said appropriation, $6,342,019 is to be raised from water receipts, and $602,981 shall be allocated to indirect costs. Could I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Councillor Labarge, and I'll go with a second with Councillor Perry. Motion to approve, I'm assuming. And any discussion? I think we kind of just talked about it a little. All right. Hearing no further discussion, Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
and Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay. The Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget has been approved. Item E.
Oh, you mean the water?
Oh, yes, Councillor Jarrett, go right ahead.
Oh, the water enterprise was approved.
Yes, thank you.
So next, the solid waste enterprise. Yeah, for the solid waste enterprise fund budget, I will be recusing myself. The Pedal People Cooperative, of which I am a member, has a business relationship with the Locust Street Transfer Station that's disproportionate, than not, more than just the ordinary relationship many of us have. So I will see you afterward.
Thank you, Councillor Jarrett. Okay. Yeah, let's see, solid waste, okay. We're on 22.114 in order to approve the 2023 Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget. Be it ordered that the sum of $679,090, which is the full amount necessary for the fiscal year 2023 Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget, be appropriated for the purposes stated and to meet said appropriation. $422,799 is to be raised from solid waste receipts. $89,913 shall be allocated to indirect costs, and $166,378 to be made available from the retained earnings balance of the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Labarge, seconded by Councillor Moulton. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please, Laura.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
and Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Jarrett, I think, can rejoin us. Excellent. All right. We are up to item 22.115 in order to approve fiscal year 2023 Stormwater and Flood Control Enterprise Fund budget. Ordered that the sum of $1,996,486, which is the full amount necessary for fiscal year 2023 Stormwater and Flood Control Enterprise Fund budget, be appropriated for the purposes stated and to meet said appropriation. $645,190 is to be raised from stormwater and flood control receipts, and $351,296 shall be allocated to indirect costs. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Labarge. Any discussion on stormwater and flood control enterprise fund budget? Hearing none. Oh, Counselor Jarrett.
Sorry, I just have
Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
couple notes. So yeah, stormwater service systems are definitely an essential service. I support the way that this is done, where the users are paying for the system. It allows us to charge the tax exempt entities for this service, like Smith College and Cooley Dickinson Hospital, which we couldn't do if it was part of the general fund. I do encourage, I've had a lot of discussions with folks and with the city solicitor and others, and I encourage the mayor and the DPW to take another look at how the charges are allocated, because I think from my research, the law is clear that property owner must see a service provided in order for the charge to be considered a fee and not a tax. And I'm not sure that charging the owners of forest land that do not discharge any water into our system would survive a legal challenge. So I'm just thinking about that process of the formula, and I'm happy to assist, in any way I can. This is certainly something I still hear from constituents about. So thanks.
Counselor Labarge.
yes, I want to echo some of it of what Councillor Jarrett was talking about, because I have brought it up twice now. I have had several residents asking for the mayor to reform another committee and go over the steps. They feel that it's being done very, very unfair. So hopefully our mayor will look at this and form a new committee and go over the stormwater fee, which I also feel is absolutely necessary to do this. And our previous mayor, about 2.5 years ago, which I stated, I sat with him and with our building inspector at that time, Tony Patillo, going over the pervious versus impervious. And the mayor said he was really thinking about forming that committee, but it never happened. And we need very knowledgeable people to be on a committee. And Tony was very willing to be on that, and it needs to be looked at. I feel myself, it's not fair the way the steps are. So that's it.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. We have a motion to approve this. Any more discussion on stormwater and flood control enterprise fund budget? Okay, hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes,
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
and Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay. The stormwater and flood control enterprise fund budget has been approved. Now we have item 22.116, in order to approve fiscal year 2023 revolving funds. I'm not going to read all of these. Mayor, do you want to speak to these at all, or these are the revolving funds for various departments? This allows them to energy and sustainability. Could you explain what revolving funds are used for?
Sure. I actually, if Director Nardi is available, she would do a brilliant job of it. I'm sure.
Okay,
we go through this.
So revolving funds,
Yeah.
They can be, well, they are used for like the rec and park and rec. So when you collect fees for programs, they are used to pay for the people who run those programs. Revolving funds are also used when we collect for fees for, trying to think like what else, for the city, revolving funds for the senior center, they collect fees for their programs. And that is how their programs are paid for. So revolving funds work with money that comes in, the money then goes out to pay for the program itself. So you can't deposit money into revolving funds from any other source. It has to be fee-based. And the idea is that the money coming in is then spent on the program or the purpose that the fee is collected.
Got it. Thank you. Great explanation. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, so would that be like Musanti beach fees, or you're talking about, I'm trying to think of other fees that like that in the city?
So I'm not actually familiar with all the fees, but
Yeah.
yes, so like I know a lot
Something
of
like
the
that.
beach fees, the JFK, all of those fees go into the athletic program.
Right.
I think it's actually it's called the JFK Pool Revolving Fund.
Right.
And that helps pay for all of like the summer staff for the camps, that kind of stuff. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
The fee just has to be connected to the program itself or the purpose of the expense.
Thank you. Okay, did I get a motion on this yet? Who would like to do it?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Maori. Any more discussion on this? Hearing and seeing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
And Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, with that, the budget for fiscal year 2023 is now completely approved. Well done, Mayor. Well done, Council. Well done, city departments. And here we are on June 2nd, and this really brilliant. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, counselors. Thank you. This has been a really great budget season. It's been a pleasure to do this with you. And I just want to give a shout out once again to Director Nardi, her first budget as well. Alan Wolf, who's here, and everyone else on the staff. It's a lot of work to put this together, and they've done a remarkable job. So I just want to give them some acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks to the champ.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I think this is possibly the most nerdy fun I've ever had.
All right.
And I've had some pretty nerdy fun, but this was very
You can imagine.
interesting process.
I can imagine too.
So
Yeah.
I'm down for nerdy fun.
we have one more item, which is 22.127, an order designating members of select committee as special municipal employees. So this is coming to us. It mirrors the mayor's ARPA committee, that when we have select employees, when we have people performing as part of committees, that by doing this, we extend to them a measure of protection, and it protects the city as well. And so that is why this is here tonight. And I'm hoping we can suspend the rule and pass this in second reading, because the committee is scheduled to meet a week from today, which Well done, committee.
Right. Right. Wow.
So I guess we first need to do that, we would need a motion to suspend the rule.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Gore to suspend the rule, which would be to send for second reading be at our next meeting. Any discussion on that? Counselor Jarrett.
I'm happy to approve, but I do, if there's any foreknowledge in the future, I do like seeing that on the agenda that is requested, just so I can do any extra work I might need to do to be ready.
I thank you, and that is a fair request. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none on suspending the rules. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve this as well.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Moulton to approve item 22.127. Counselor Jarrett.
Just a scrivener's error. The date says April 14th.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Good catch. All right. Any further discussion or scriveners? Counselor Perry.
This is just a really quick one, is that I'm thankful to be a part of this committee, but I also think it's very important that this committee has been started. And so I'm thankful to the city and the mayor for initiating this, because I believe it is important to really figure out what the barriers are to be civil servants. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to vote?
Yep.
Laura, roll call.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
and Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. An order designating members of select committee as special municipal employees has been approved. Next up, we have no ordinances, we have no resolutions, we have no information requests. There is new item of new business. I see the mayor raising her hand, and Counselor Maori, what are you seeing I'm not seeing?
Oh, brother.
Oh, no, I know, you are absolutely right. I would like to go back in time a little bit. I regret, you asked me if I had any announcements, and I had not thought to announce this. So I'm wondering if I could just make a quick announcement before you adjourn.
I'm in suspense. We're all in suspense. What is it?
I already know.
I just want to announce that the ARPA Advisory Commission is going to start their listening sessions very soon, next week. So they're going to be holding 8 listening sessions across the city and online. So the first one will be Tuesday, June 7th at 12 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. So you can access it via Zoom or in the city council chambers, which it's been a while since any of us have been in there. So that's at 212 Main Street. It's behind City Hall. Then the next one is Wednesday, June 8th at 6 p.m. This is in person at Jackson Street School in the cafeteria. Childcare is available at that session, and call the mayor's office to sign up in advance for childcare if you need it. And there'll also be a Spanish language interpreter available at that session. Then Thursday, June 9th, 7 p.m. This is virtual, just online, accessible by Zoom. So look for that link on the city calendar. Then Monday, June 13th, 5:30 p.m. This one's in person at Union Station at 125A Pleasant Street. Then Wednesday, June 15th, 2 p.m. This one's also in person. This is at the Northampton Senior Center at 67 Conn Street. Then Thursday, June 16th at 3:30 p.m. in person at the Florence Civic Center at 90 Park Street. That session is aimed at small businesses, nonprofits, and other community organizations, but all community members are welcome to attend. And then Tuesday, June 21st, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. And that one's virtual. That one's over Zoom. And then the last one is Thursday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. in person at Florence Heights in their community room at 178 Florence Road. That one will also have Spanish language, a Spanish language interpreter available for that session. So please, we will be, I think we will be, or we've put out a press release. We'll do a social media post. Please, counselors, share that information with your constituents and try and get everyone. We've tried to make varied locations, times, ways to join, and let's try and get everyone out in June to share their thoughts about how we should spend the ARPA community recovery money. So thank you for letting me jump in at the end and do that.
That was a great little announcement. Thank you. I actually have something under new business. It'll be real quick. Director Fiden, as we all know, is leaving at the end of the month. I am hoping to share some kind words at our next meeting. I think it'd be great if counselors have any thoughts. I think the work that he's done has, touched every ward, every street across the city. Just if you just want to list things that stops, like crosswalks or sidewalks or bike lanes that are in your ward or on your street, and encourage people to show up for public comment. I think that would be great. I didn't want to force anybody to do it, but I'm planning to do it under announcements to make some remarks. And if anybody would like to join me, that would be great.
Counselor, you probably could get a truckload of Legos.
Legos?
Legos, sure, he can build. He likes to do things.
Oh. A retirement gift. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other new business? Counselor Maori.
Yeah, I just want to announce, I believe it sounds like we're going to be canceling our June 8th Finance Committee meeting. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. We'll of course adjust the calendar, but give counselors and public a heads up because we did not have anything referred.
No, we haven't heard anything about it.
Am I correct? Yeah.
We still have that open hearing.
Oh, we have the open hearing.
Yes.
I thought that we did. I thought we only had businesses that would be referred today. So we will meet. It will most likely be brief since the hearing. Did we get clarification on that? I guess we'll talk
Not
later.
yet.
But I think there was
Counselor Moulton's waving. I think he has an answer.
We weren't sure if we needed to meet for that. But anyway, yes.
Counselor Moulton.
I talked today with Solicitor Seawald, and the question is no longer about the city taking that property for the public way, for the public street. That is now a moot point. So that hearing simply needs to be closed. There's no further action required of us on that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we can.
Did he say what he thought should happen then?
I had a conversation. I'm not sure. I'll defer to the mayor on this at this point. I'm not sure how much I should say about the legal strategy that's being employed.
I actually meant what he thought the finance committee needed to do when I met, not the city.
Well, just for housekeeping, we've got this continued hearing.
Oh, okay.
We need to close the hearing, but there will be no further testimony and no action required by the finance committee on that question.
No, that's
We
right.
need to meet to close the hearing.
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess I will be seeing you for some brief minutes then.
So we're still gonna have it on
Well,
June 8th?
well,
We can just, yeah.
well, I think we could, I mean, we could hold a brief meeting before the council meeting on the 16th to simply close that
Exactly.
hearing.
That would take 2 minutes.
Laura's got.
Just because it was continued to a date and time certain in case anyone present at the initial hearing wanted to attend to find out the disposition, and it is necessary to briefly meet to just close the hearing on the date it was continued to.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we're meeting.
Well, I'll take it back. My understanding was that we didn't have to meet, but we will meet then at 6 o'clock
5
on
minutes.
June 8th.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business? Great work, everybody.
Counselor Nash.
Oh, hold it. What do we got? Karen?
Tune up the glasses, Counselor Nash, or, to see the little boxes. I just wanted to follow Counselor Maori's lead on committee announcements. There's an error with posting the agenda for Monday's city services meeting. So stay tuned for the disposition of that meeting for when we'll be having that.
Hey.
Counselor Jarrett.
Well, since everyone else is announcing,
hop on in.
As far as I'm aware, no items have been referred to legislative matters for our June 13th meeting. So is that correct, Laura?
That's correct.
So we will be canceling that meeting.
Okay. Come on, somebody's got something.
Stay tuned for an upcoming community resources meeting once I discuss this with Counselor Jarrett and everyone else there too.
Okay.
Because we do have some things referred to us that need to be attended to. So now everyone knows, we'll be in touch.
Okay. Okay. Any other new business? With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. A motion made by Counselor Labarge, seconded by Counselor Perry to adjourn. There's no discussion of when you're adjourning. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
And Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned and nice